good morning. Thank you for coming. You see that we have a little delay, so the press conference is going to be very short. We have something like half an hour only. So please introduce yourself when you'll be asking the question. His Holiness is ready to answer a couple of your questions. Identify yourself by your name and by media you represent, please, and be brief, please. And wait always before hostesses will bring microphone because the session is recorded. Thank you. So your questions? The first one here. Oh.
On your last visit, when you last met President Václav Havel, he told you that you're popular among the Czech people, but the politicians fear you. My question is if you were disappointed by the decision of his successors to not meet you.
Not at all. I think, let me say, wherever I go, I always see sort of with feeling, I'm another human being. And then a person, now 7, 8 years old, you see, is judging the events on this planet, past and today. Of course, in fact, many material development, but we are lacking inner value. As a result, even those rich people, not necessarily very happy. Always too much stress, anxiety, fear, frustration. As a result, in the society, crimes, killing, senselessly, this happen. So therefore, I always say, sharing with other people, ultimate source of peace of mind is within ourselves. This from birth we already have, because like you, we all come from our mother. So mother provides maximum affection to the children. So our first experience, in our lifetime, first experience is at very young age, the mother's affection, mother's milk. So that actually seedling, the seed of compassion. So every human being like that. So now I'm trying, think our intelligence and nurture that basic basic seed. So therefore, wherever I go, I always talk about the importance of compassion, these things. Secondly, I'm a religious person. I'm a Buddhist monk. So there are, not only in the past history, but even today, some conflict in the name of religion. So we must make some effort, you see, to reduce this. The only way, not sufficient just to criticize or condemn, but we must sort of develop closeness feeling among different institutions. So these two things, now leaders, or president, or prime minister, or politicians, I think not much connection. If I have some sort of political agenda or some certain sort of agenda, ask government, then meeting these leaders are important. But otherwise, not much sort of, I say, relevant. So therefore, and then on top of that, I never want to create any inconvenience to anybody like that. So these two things, the public have the real sort of the ability. Peace transform our humanity not from government, but by individual. Firstly, individual try to create inner peace, peace of mind, then create peaceful atmosphere within the family, then 10 family, 100 family, 1,000 family, that way transform our societies or way of life and way of thinking. Next question.
Michal Sinek from Tibetské listy, Peggy Sardur. Your Holiness, Peggy Sardur.
Oh, yes, yes.
Your Holiness, we are right now in this country facing a very ugly wave of racism against Roma. I don't know if you heard about it. And I would like to ask if racism is a part of a problem in Tibetan-Chinese relations, and if yes, if you have any suggestions how to deal with that.
Before 1959, you see, we often used to complain about Chinese policy. We never have sort of feeling some kind of racial sort of, because of the racial tension. Of course, several centuries, Han brothers, sisters, we Tibetan, very close, like that. Then after 59, nowadays, yes, there is some kind of racial sort of conflict. So you see, this is very serious. You see, the only method is we reach out to the Chinese brothers, sisters. First, we are victim. Victim side, reach out of Chinese brothers, sisters. I think 70s and the 80s, we try our best. Wherever there is some Chinese student or Chinese university professors there, we must sort of reach out. But till Tiananmen event happened, the Chinese side always remained distant. After Tiananmen, you see, we reach now much sort of easier. So now, and actually, last now few years, wherever Tibetan community there are, in Canada, America, Australia, wherever Tibetan community there are, you see, now we develop a sort of association, Sino-Tibetan Friendship Association. So from time to time, you see, meeting with the two communities. So that, I think, I heard some Roma problem. I heard this not only is here, but some other also. I think these are, I think, the symptom of old thinking. Now, yesterday also I mentioned, now time come. We have to sort of develop sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That's very, very important. So here those are the people who sort of lived this country last few centuries. They actually Czech people, Czechoslovakia people, doesn't matter what they sort of their language or their sort of tradition. So you must accept. If you really stress importance of races, then you should not receive me. I'm Tibetan, I'm not Czech.
Thank you. Next question here, please.
Lukáš Jirsa, televize Noé. Please, Your Holiness, the religions in these days are in much more closer contacts than before. Do you think that your thinking is influenced by other religions by Christian religion or other thoughts from other religions?
Or religion? Okay, yes.
If the Buddhism or your teaching is influenced by other religions. Thank you.
Kaza, nge di shindal pa influence gorse. Su influence gorse. Pare sure. Oh, a good question. As I mentioned earlier, one of my commitments is promoting religious harmony. So, I always say, in order to promote religious harmony, we must respect all religions. If you just, keep or sort of concept of one religion, one truth, and look at other religion is something different. Then, how can develop genuine harmony? Because harmony entirely based on mutual respect. Whenever I give some lecture on Buddhism in non-Buddhist country, I always stress, you have your own religion. It is much better, much safer, keep your own traditional religion. Change religious faith sometimes create some sort of confusion in their mind. So it is much safer, keep one's own tradition. At the same time, we can learn from each other. We Buddhists also, because of that, learn a lot of sort of useful experiences. For example, Christianity, Christians on this planet, Christian brothers, sisters, made greatest contribution regarding education and health everywhere. Very active. Sometimes conversion also is a little bit sort of involved, but basically, really, sort of a lot of Christian dedicated people in some remote, because of backward sort of area, rural area. So we Buddhists, quite few. So we must learn. We must follow their example. And then philosophical field, then all religions carry same message of love, tolerance, forgiveness, contentment, self-discipline. These are same message. I know through personal sort of contact, some Christian, really wonderful. They practice compassion. They really implement forgiveness. Wonderful. Then philosophical field, there's big differences. Actually, on world religions, basically two groups, two categories. One group, their fundamental sort of belief is God, creator. Another group, no that belief. Simply law of causality, cause and effect, like that. So, in the philosophical field, big differences. And within Buddhism, there are major, I think 4 different philosophical views. And further goes, different sort of differences always there. So these same purpose, when we see differences, then we must sort of raise question, what is the purpose of these different philosophy? The same purpose, to strengthening, practice of love, compassion, forgiveness, these things. So it doesn't matter. Like medicine. For different illness, we need a different medicine. Like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Andrej Matišak. I'm from Slovakia, from Daily Pravda. Your Holiness, during your visit in Lithuania, you expressed cautious optimism about the current approach from China towards Tibet. Can you elaborate a bit on this? Do you think something is changing because of the new leadership? And are there any contacts between Tibetan political representation, exile, and new Chinese leadership? Thank you.
This political question, actually, 2011, I completely sort of retired from political leadership, political responsibility. And then, not only me personally sort of retired, but also the almost 4-century-old tradition. Dalai Lama institution automatically head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that formally ended. So perhaps I think you may call me revolution. I think some old Tibetan, I think they don't like, is it that? So we really want to catch up the time. So the best sort of system, political sort of field, best system is democracy. Because, you know, I always telling people, world belongs to humanity. I think Czech belongs to Czech people, not 2 or 3 parties, isn't it? How many parties you have?
A lot of parties. 18, too much.
18. Oh. And sometimes in America, a few years ago, I mentioned America belongs to around 300 million of American, not Democratic Party, not sort of the Republican Party. So therefore, like you said, Tibet belongs to Tibetan, not Dalai Lama. So the best way to rule people, by people, through election and elected leadership. And people must check elected sort of leader whether really carry people's wish sincerely or not. The people have to watch. So here, media people, I usually see they say, media people, you should have long nose, like elephant nose, and smell everywhere, in front, and everybody try to nice. So very important to smell what behind, what going on behind. And me too. You should sort of smelling is what behind. So therefore, I mean, because you see, since people elected the leader, so people must know what's the reality. So media people have special sort of rule, make clear about the reality, good or bad. Reality must make clear. Provided you should be honest, truthful, unbiased. Now this is general. Now is your particular question. As I mentioned earlier, we reach out, our Chinese brothers, sisters, and including Chinese government. So since you see the leadership, you see, changing, some sort of, my Chinese friend, they say the new leadership, their way of thinking could be more realistic. So we'll see. I think one thing, the Xi Jinping president, new president, I think really very courageous to facing corruption. That's, I think, wonderful. That's very good. Like that. Next question.
Thank you. There's a question in the first row.
I'm Luciano Villa from Alpes Alpine Area magazine. And my question is about your meeting that we read on press with Aung Suu Kyi yesterday. And because many of us, I think, yesterday we listened to the passionate words of Aung Suu Kyi about democracy. She gave, I think, a hurting speech about democracy, and giving her meaning of democracy, what democracy means for her. So I ask to you, what is your meaning for democracy? It's not a political question. It's just a question to understand.
I just mentioned about democracy. So now, not necessary, you see, repeat that answer.
Repeat more.
Oh. So, in spite of some drawbacks in democratic system, in the name of freedom, sometimes the people with power, once you get some power, and sometimes you see, I think not very sincerely you see, carry their initial sort of what's the promise or stand. So in spite of some drawbacks, I think democratic system is the best system. Democratically, you see, elected people, elected leader, you see, they have to sort of explain to people what to say. Accountability. That's very good. You see, people are, so democratic system, actually, people are real ruler of the country. Like that. So it is wonderful. I think like United States, the very sort of famous, the able sort of President, Mr. Nixon, finally impeachment. So these are, you see, people's power through law. That's, I think, wonderful. Wonderful. Yes, next question.
Thank you. It's probably the last question.
I think you, as our long-time Italian friend, so you see, your own home, a lot of problems.
Yes, please.
Jan Flemmer, Agence France Presse. I'd like to ask you a question, Your Holiness, that we already asked Suu Kyi. It's about the Buddhist state of Burma, which is facing sectarian violence against Muslims of the Rohingya people. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on this, how that relates to the Buddhist values, if you see a solution. Thank you.
First time I heard you said that, unfortunate. I was in America, and I expressed, now please, those Burmese monks, please, you see, when they develop some kind of anger, you see, towards Muslim brothers, sisters, please remember Buddha's face. I'm sure if such sort of circumstances, Buddha come, certainly Buddha protect those Muslim brothers, sisters who are becoming victims.
Thank you. The last question. Yes, over there, please.
Good morning, Martin Weiser, Czech News Agency. You talk often about tolerance and peace in the heart, but what about countries that are at war? And I mean, for example, Syria. Shouldn't the West and the international community react much more forcefully to what's going on there when people are gassed and killed? Thank you.
Did you heard, you see, my talk yesterday? Yeah? You see, I believe, you see, many unhealthy events of the beginning of this 21st century is actually symptom of the past mistake, past, the negligence. So therefore, when the causes fully sort of develop, and then these symptoms happen, very difficult to control. Both now Syria, for example, and Syria, you see, both sides is full of hatred, full of destructive emotion. Very difficult. And meantime, both have weapons. Very difficult. So only thing is, with more patience and personal contact, dialogue, that's the only way. Otherwise, very difficult. Very difficult. And then Iraq crisis. Firstly, Iraq crisis. I think American sort of policy, I think motivation very good. I know Mr. Bush very well. Very wonderful, very nice person. So motivation is good. The goal also is to bring democracy in Iraq. But then method, you see, use force. So because of wrong method, you see, it become much sort of complicated. Since the Iraq war now, how many years passed now? Oh. So there are a lot of sort of difficulties. And the Arab Spring summer. Oh, and also, you see, unexpected sort of difficulties and problems. So these, I feel, you see, they are fundamental way of thinking. You see, too much emphasis, I and they, or we and them. And too much emphasis, self-centered attitude. So that both is threatened there, and then no sort of, never thinking about peace or moral ethics or suffering, simply express fully all those blind destructive emotions. Very sad. So the more we concern about the presence of this event, now we have to think within this century, now this kind of ugly thing should not repeat. For that, you say, how can we educate our younger generation? When these younger generation, through sort of proper education, awareness, then you see these kind of situation, I think certainly will reduce. So now I think, therefore I mentioned this yesterday, everywhere when I give talk, this century should be century of dialogue. Whenever you see we face some sort of conflict, we must use method of dialogue, not weapon, not force.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your questions. But first of all, thank Your Holiness for your answers. Session is over. Thank you.